although purpose is different. I remember this used to be an arable field, it's now a grass field, or started life as a grass field, and I am going to put it back as one. The animal dealer's in the same place. They ripped out the BGA and replaced it with a second sell point, but it uses the same area as the BGA. The BGA is now a newfangled area, and basically relocated to just outside the town. And the dealership has gone. It's like old machines. It would be very good for old machines. I know this map was made by Black Sheep Modding, and they did they had intended to do for the mod contest last year an old Massey Ferguson pack, and unfortunately they discovered that one of their programmers had copied some element of one of the pieces of equipment from somebody else, and that kind of they owned up to it, and it disqualified them from the contest, but they still released the old Massey Ferguson pack. This farm would be very good for an old style tractor map. 1970s tractors would work very well on this map. Unfortunately, there's not much in the way of older equipment right now. At least not a full set. That was the nice thing about the Massey Ferguson pack. You got an old harvester, a couple of old tractors, and equipment to fit them. And the problem is, at the moment, is most people are producing one thing at a time. And so there's some sort of 1940s, 1950s John Deere tractors, but there's no equipment that they can use. Have you done silage farming? Not on this map, I haven't. But yes, I have. Sometimes I think I've done way too much silage farming. But even though there are no sort of 1970s packs available, I mean, I'm using the small, what is this? 5613, so 130 horsepower Massey Ferguson. And small equipment to go with it, because obviously at 130 horsepower there's quite a lot of equipment that you can't run on this tractor. Silage farming does not make as much money as it used to in 17. In fact, most things do not make as much money as they used to. Sheep pallets are half the size or half the volume they used to be, and also about a third of the price per 1,000 litres. So one pallet really doesn't make a lot of money in it as the way wool goes. Silage makes fair money, but it's not as great as it used to be. Crops that make the most money, I believe, cotton is a good money income. The downside with cotton is you need your own plant. Yeah, it has its own. It uses a planter. So it uses the same planting equipment as corn and sunflowers and sugar beets, but you need your own harvester. It's a unique harvester for that crop, and so that is a big outlay. If you're gonna do cotton, you're probably only going to do cotton when you start up, but it does pay well. Horses pay well, but you've got to have them and ride them for 10 days in order to turn 5,000 outlay to buy a horse into 50,000 income from selling it, fully trained. So it is a time thing, and you have to spend 10 minutes a day riding them, which if you've got 16 horses, that's a lot of playtime you've got to devote to riding horses. Now you can get the horse helper mod, which basically works to say if you pay a few hundred credits, a few $100, a sort of invisible worker turns up at 11 o'clock and rides all your horses. So they count as ridden, but it costs you money each day. They've made it harder to make money, but it's not necessarily the making of the money that, obviously it helps, but the way I play it, I don't really mind not making as much money as I used to. For the most part, for a given acreage, most crops will make the same amount of money. It's just that some crops are more valuable than others, and the crops that are more valuable yield less crop. What do I want to do? Turn that off. Fold that up. There we go. So that should be grass again. Yep. There are efficiencies to be made in seed usage. I believe for FarmSim 17 it used to be the most efficient to plant soybeans. Soybeans were a high value crop and therefore yielded very low quantities of crop, which on a sort of amount of work you have to do harvesting it and unloading the harvester, it was easier to do than say getting the full amount out of wheat, where you had to unload the harvester far more often, and then go out and collect all the hay, straw as well. So soybeans is a good crop, but I think canola could be better, because for FarmSim 19, canola is a more efficient crop to plant. It uses far less seed than soybeans do, and that's a flip from 17. The worst crop to plant for seed usage is potatoes, because it takes about 10 times more seed to plant a field of potatoes than it would to plant the same field with soybeans. However, once you've planted potatoes, they yield awesome numbers of potatoes, although it's a high high workload to harvest the potatoes, because the harvesters don't have very big large capacity, and so you are constantly unloading them. But you can use potato crop in the potato seeder, So it's a self-perpetuating crop. And it doesn't yield a lot of money, but it does yield a lot of crop for a given area. What are we doing here? Unload. Oh, hello. Okay, you can't unload the weeder. Good to know. But I tend to go with, I don't mind in general which crop I plant. I'll plant a mixture of wheat, barley, soybeans. If I can afford a planter, I'll plant corn and sunflowers. I don't really mind because they kind of all make the same amount of money, so by planting all of them, you're kind of working your way up to when a great demand comes in, having some of that on supply will increase the profit you made from it, even if I have it sitting around in the silo for 5 years before the great demand comes up. But I think from talking to other players, cotton is one of the better crops for income. And they haven't rebalanced it, so... But it does take great outlay. I'll show that in a minute. I'm heading up to the gas station for a refill on this. Only having one tractor means that it gets a lot of use. So your cotton harvester is, where is it? This thing here, 485,000 for one cotton harvester. So that's a huge outlay, but it will pay itself off. So yes, this used to be the store. The store is now a brand new building, steel and glass building out the back now. Sorry, dude. But a lot of the time, I mean, when I play Farm Sim, I tend to look for prototypical crop for the region the map is supposedly based in. I still play Farm Sim 17, I'm playing Lawfolds on that, and it's based in Scotland. So no sunflowers, very small amounts of corn, and the corn is only used as animal feed. Predominantly barley, because there's a thriving whiskey industry in Scotland, and they kind of like barley. And then sort of other cereal crops to fit with the region. That was kind of expensive. Okay, we have run out of tasks to do, so I honestly don't know what equipment I have at this point. Oh, I did buy one of those. Where the heck did I put it? I have a trailer somewhere. Oh, didn't I put it up the back here? Yeah, okay. Actually, that reminds me. Since we planted the grass now, we could throw some fertiliser down on it. So it will be at maximum yield the next time we come to mow it. What is Michigan based in? Most of the crops we have around here seem to be corn or a wheat or oat type of crop. I haven't seen a lot of canola, at least not in my area. And although that's not to say it's not grown elsewhere. But I'd usually bounce around Google and have a look and see what you can find about the agriculture in a region. I'll usually Google sort of agriculture, Michigan. Corn it's an okay crop. I mean, we can look at prices. I mean, I'm looking here. Corn is sort of similar to wheat and barley in price for the most part. It uses about the same amount of seed, but you don't get straw out of corn, which we do out of wheat and barley, but that's additional work you have to do to realise that income. Oats is a low yield crop, so is a better value. Actually, that's the best value I've seen on barley lately. Much more than wheat. We should sell some in a while. Which one's cotton? This cotton's further over. So this one's cotton, as you see, very high value crop. Sugar beets very low value, potatoes medium value, but when you compare that to wheat, at least on this map, potatoes are almost as good as wheat and yield far higher. You can make a lot of money on potatoes, but be prepared to work for hours to get them all out the ground. That's the downside of potatoes. But as I said, once you've got potatoes, you don't have to worry about buying any more seed, because you can replant the same field or replant more fields with potatoes and then sell the excess. That's something I'm doing on Mercury Farms, which I play on Friday, or stream on Friday. That is I'm not going overboard with potatoes, but it is something I am keeping it as a tick over crop that we'll always have some. I'll always put some potatoes in the ground as I harvest. So you harvest them, you put them in storage for a bit, and then when you get round to seeding your fields, I'll throw some potatoes in one of my fields and then sell all the excess. So they're making me money. Okay, I'll zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. So this will be a fully fertilised field now. It's going to take a while for the grass to grow. We might have to come back and deal with weeds. We'll keep an eye out for that later. I think we just dealt with all the weeds, so it's not something that is imminent. Does Michigan have a cotton farm? I honestly don't know. Shall we look up? I think cotton is generally more South American, or southern North America, than it is Michigan. Michigan. Michigan's top 10 agricultural products. How about that? Cows. Milk, basically. Corn is... I'm not sure whether I'm going up or down. Let's have a look. So, dairy cattle 1.8 billion in cash receipts, corn 986 million. Next one down is soybeans. The next one down is beef cattle, chicken eggs, pigs, apples, sugar beets, although we're down to 146 million in cash receipts for sugar beets, wheat, and potatoes. So those are the products of Michigan. So yeah, no, Michigan is not a big cotton producer. I think you need warmer climates for cotton. Oh, I didn't turn it off. Let's try that again. Okay. Prototypically, you would probably split corn and soybeans in Michigan. Now, if you can't afford the harvester headers for both, or the planters for both, all right, I'll take this farm, although it's not Michigan. Starting equipment, they gave me a harvester with a cereal header and a corn header, so I could harvest anything. The problem is they only gave me a seeder, so I can only plant soybeans, wheat, barley, oats, that sort of thing. So my choice on this map so far would be, if this was a Michigan map, I would probably be concentrating on soybeans, because that's what I've got the equipment for right now. Now, when I get up to possibly 50,000 euros, I could think about, well, I could buy a planter and plant some corn and increase my corn production. If you're starting farm manager or starting from scratch, you could, toss a coin, do one or the other if you can't do both. Oh, that's bad. Maybe I should be driving in cab, then I'll see where I'm going. If you can afford to do both, by all means do both. And then don't forget, it's not outside the realms of possibility to do sugar beets or potatoes. And if you're going to do animals, you want to primarily concentrate on cattle, and behind that chickens, and to a lesser extent pigs, and pretty much forget the pigs. Forget the sheep. Sheep are not really a big thing in Michigan. And that is, of course, if you want your farm to be, on the realistic side. Oh, come on. Oh, I didn't want them all out. Ugh. Okay, that's the full one. So we will put this way back here. So what I'm doing now is consolidating this into as fewer bags as possible. To do that, I have to fill the cedar or the tank up and then empty it or unload it. There we go. Okay, I'll zoom in and reverse this back and put it away. But as with anything, you want, play your own way. If you want to plant barley on a Michigan map, knock yourself out. It really doesn't matter. It's your farm. You can do what you want. And barley and oats would not be a problem for the climate. Wheat, barley, oats, they all like cold, wet, which is kind of what Michigan is. It's just that traditionally Michigan doesn't grow barley and doesn't grow oats, or at least not vast amounts of them. Okay, that's that. That front, that is a. Thinking those looked a little bit narrow, could be bale forks, but I'm thinking, why would I have bale forks on a farm which doesn't have a baler? And he's never likely to have a baler. And you also want to look at the feasibility of things. This farm, the silo, will take hay, straw, grass, and so I have no desire to create bales on this farm, because it's easier for me to grab the loading wagon and dump whatever I pick up into the silo. Now on a standard map, grass, hay and straw do not go in a standard silo. And so I would be more likely to consider bales on a map like that. The other thing with this map is there's not a lot of storage around, and bales take up a lot of space. So it's actually easier for me to say, okay, I won't produce any bales because then I have a storage problem. It does mean that if I want to do silage, I'm going to have to do it loose in the silage bunkers out the back, but I have 3 of them. On other farms, I may go predominantly bales because I have a lot of barn storage and the silos don't support grass, hay and straw storage. And also, if I did want to, if the silos don't, I could always put in a a hayloft. But once again, a hayloft kind of limited. You can only put hay and straw in it. You can't put grass in it. So storing grass